Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
First of all, from my standpoint, the acceptance of this extension expresses, our commitment, my commitment, Terry and I's commitment, our family's commitment to the University of Alabama for the rest of our career. We made that decision, after the season when other people were interested.
And that's music to the ears of Crimson Tide fans everywhere. Even though Nick Saban had interest from others, he's choosing to stay at Alabama. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock. Once again tonight, ice cold Pepsi Cola. You already tasted it. Is it really cold?
I haven't.
Oh, okay. Let me find out for you. Just about right. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, the second highest paid man in Tuscaloosa behind Nick Saban. I'm Gary Harris, not even in the neighborhood of being one of the highest paid people in Tuscaloosa, but we're here to have a good time tonight. That was Coach Saban talking about his pay raise and extension that the Board of Trustees approved on Monday. We'll get into the terms of a deal in a few minutes, but first, let's talk about Coach's comments. We've heard him say before that he intended to finish his career at Alabama, but Rodney, this statement on Monday evening seemed much stronger. Really, it wasn't prompted. He knew that reporters were going to ask about the pay raise and extension, but he went out of his way to say, this is it. After the national championship game, I had some other interest. We gauged it. My wife Terry and I did, and we want to stay in Alabama. We're making a commitment to Alabama as much as Alabama's making a commitment to us, and it looks like he's going to close it out here.
Well, first of all, Gary, the obvious thing is Nick Saban's a wanted man. All the success he's had, no question about that. Sometimes it comes down to timing, and I think when you look at his age and where he is in his career, and in the position that he's in right now, I mean, really, why would you want to leave? Why would you want to go somewhere else at this point and start over? He's in a situation where he's established a program now, 5 years. They've won 2 national championships, 2 of the last 3. And, he's got it rolling. He's got everything he wants, everything he needs here at Alabama. He's got a great program to sell. Recruiting's, they won, 3 or 4 national championships in terms of recruiting. Off to another great recruiting start as well. And, there's really not much more that he could ask for. You would have to be settled here. If you left here, I don't know what you would leave it for at this point. For him, at this time, it's just a perfect time.
And he's already set precedent. This is the first time at any school as a head coach he's gone into 6 spring trainings. He had 5 years at Michigan State, 5 years at LSU, and now this will make his 6th year at Alabama. So no doubt he's comfortable here, and everybody's comfortable with Nick Saban. But as we mentioned, others did come calling following the national championship game, and Saban obviously turned down their inquiries. Now, as to who the other teams or organizations were, Saban wouldn't talk about the details.
We wanted to stay at Alabama, and we're staying in Alabama, and we're not interested in going anyplace else, and we weren't interested in going anyplace else at the end of the season, so it really doesn't matter. We just appreciate the commitment that the University of Alabama has made to having a successful program, and we're really pleased and happy to be here. And a lot of people contribute to the success of the program, and I want them all to know that we really appreciate it, probably more than they know. What a good team we've been able to put together here because of everybody's commitment to being positive and trying to be supportive in terms of what we want to try to accomplish. So, we're excited about that, and I really don't think that the rest of it matters.
And Rodney, as you just stated, Coach Saban could probably go a lot of places if he chose to. We heard some chatter, you and I did, following the national championship game. Mac Brown's situation at Texas seems to be tenuous, even though he gets a contract extension, it seems, every year. But, there were some NFL teams that might have taken a look at Nick Saban.
There were rumors about Penn State as well, if you remember. And again, I don't know that any of those are true. But again, there obviously are teams that are, and or organizations that have been interested in him, and for good reason. Yeah,
but it sounds as though Nick Saban has made a decision to stay at Alabama and finish it out here. Remember, he is 60 years old. Well, the terms of Saban's deal are as follows. The coach will make just over $5.3 million this year. He'll receive a $50,000 raise in 2013 and $100,000 annually after that. He also received a 2-year extension that will take him all the way through the 2019 season. at which time he'll be close to making $6 million a year, and also would put him in his late 60s. The head coach wasn't the only one to receive a pay raise, though. Several of his assistants also did, and that was very important to Nick Saban, that they get paid market value as well.
It doesn't really matter what my opinion is or anybody else's opinion. The market is what it is. And if we're not willing to pay that to the best people that we have, they're not going to be here. And for all the people who think that, I think everybody loves the University of Alabama and loves coaching here. But I think there's a business side to this that everybody's got to be aware of too.
Well, it is a business, and Kirby Smart's been mentioned for head coaching jobs, but Rodney, as you told me when he's been mentioned at Ole Miss, he needs to be very careful and make the right move. He's making $950,000 now. So, I mean, there are a lot of places that can't even pay a head coach that. The Board of Trustees also approved contracts for new offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier and linebackers coach Lance Thompson. Okay, let's talk about these assistants. Let's begin with Smart. I like what Saban said. You know, we didn't set the market value. It is what it is, but you can tell it's as important to him that he get what's fair. It's as important to him, I should say, that the assistants get what's fair as it is that he gets what's fair, and that's how you win championships. You don't just do it with a head coach. You have top flight assistants, and Alabama is paying big money for them as well.
Well, and again, Gary, when you've had success like they've had here at Alabama, you're going to have schools that want these assistant coaches to come become head coaches, or even higher paid assistant coaches at their schools, obviously. And, you know, to keep them, you have to compensate them well. And, you know, some of this also, I think, would have to do with their efforts as recruiters. You know, Kirby Smart's done a great job at Georgia. And, you know, you look at a guy like Kirby Smart, I think the more success Alabama continues to have, the more opportunities for top flight jobs he would have, you know, whatever that might be. Whatever job would come available that is better than, say, an Ole Miss. Because, you know, he can be more selective is what I'm trying to say.
Again, though, getting back to the assistants and what it means to Coach Saban, you could just tell in what he said and the way that he said it that, I mean, that's a big deal, that this staff is paid in line with the top staffs in the country. And you get the feeling at the end of the day, it would have been one thing to offer him a big raise, but had the assistants not been offered raises as well, maybe he would have looked elsewhere.
Well,
we don't have to worry about that.
Maybe
they're getting paid too.
But again, you know, obviously Alabama's doing a great job of compensating those guys, and you know, they're doing a great job as well, so everyone's happy.
Well, up next on Titv, Rodney, not all of the Alabama assistant coaches got raises. Jeff Stoutland did not. Joe Panunzio, Director of Football Operations, did not. Was a recruiting scandal at another school to blame? We'll discuss that. Later on, we'll take your phone calls and emails, as we always do, at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us, titv@wvuatv.com. And still to come, Coach Saban turned down others, but will Anthony Grant do the same if an offer comes his way? Stay tuned. You're watching the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock Bottling Company. Welcome back to Tider Insider TV on your home team station, WVUA. I'm Gary Harris, right next to Rodney Orr.
You like that?
Psychedelic tie look.
Spring is sprung.
Tracy put that on you tonight?
Yes, she did.
I knew she did.
As a matter of fact, I give her credit for it. She picked out this shirt.
That was good.
2 years ago.
But that shirt and tie's got female written all over it. Nice.
Well, what do you mean by that?
That just means it.
Hold on just a minute.
I mean, it's got a woman's touch to it.
All right, gotcha.
All right, let's move on. The lone on-the-field assistant that did not get a pay raise was offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland. He was allegedly involved in some things that went on at the University of Miami, allegations which did not surface until after Stoutland joined the Crimson Tide football program. Coach Saban had this to say about Stoutland not receiving a pay raise.
I think as a university we make decisions to do things because we think it's the right thing to do. And, you know, in the future, I think Jeff Stoutland deserves to get a raise based on the merit of his work that he's done here. But I also think that it wouldn't be smart on our part to ignore other things that have happened. And so it is what it is.
Obviously, Coach Saban is referring to what happened down at Miami, because there's no doubt on the field here, Jeff Stoutland has done a terrific job as offensive line coach. But before you say, oh, I feel sorry for Coach Stoutland, he is making close to $400,000 without a pay raise. So he's well compensated, and I'm sure if he sticks around and everything turns out okay with the other deal, he's going to get a pay raise next year.
Nick Saban said he would.
That's right. Yeah. Also, Joe Panunzio, Director of Football Operations, also involved in that Miami situation, or mentioned, did not receive a pay raise either. All right, stick around. Nick Saban picks up another recruit for 2013. Lou Holtz pays a visit to Tuscaloosa, and is Anthony Grant possibly thinking about making a move to another school? We'll have all those stories, plus your phone calls and emails. There again is the information on the screen that you need in order to get in touch with us. We'll be back with more Titv right after this. Recruiting news, Alabama picking up its 8th verbal commitment for the class of 2013 on Thursday. Big offensive lineman Andy Dodd, 6'4", 313 pounds, out of Lindale, Georgia. Can really play, like Barry Jones, can play a lot of different offensive line positions, play center in basketball, so you know he's athletic. His high school teammate, defensive lineman Dakota Ball, is a signee in 2012 and will be joining the Crimson Tide this summer. So it just keeps on rolling for Alabama in recruiting. We're going to talk about the current players, and Alabama continued practice this week. The Tide on the practice field yesterday, and we'll go again on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Now, yesterday, Nick Saban was not in a bad mood, but this was the first time following any of the practice, Rodney, that he did not have just glowing reviews for his team. He said a few guys looked tired and gave into the fatigue a little bit. I like what he said, though. He said, you know what, I'll call up the Michigan coach, and if he's going to give his guys a few days off, then we'll take a few days off. Otherwise, get ready to push through.
Let me tell you, he wouldn't do that. I can promise you that.
Well, first of all, Michigan's not taking
no,
any off.
absolutely. But, you know, Gary, sometimes, and he said this too, you know, sometimes this happens, especially during spring practice when you hit a little bit of a kind of a lull or something, and, you know, you hit this wall, and you know, but as he mentioned, good teams have to find ways to work through that. And, you know, you talked to a lot of the players or some of the players after practice yesterday, and they thought once things got going that it got better as practice went along, and that, you know, that it wasn't necessarily the entire team, but there was some effort in places and spots that maybe wasn't what it should have been. So, you know, but I expect them to certainly have a good practice tomorrow when they resume.
Well, one thing we've talked often about, Rodney, is just how good this football team looks. Big, strong, fast athletes everywhere. And a lot of famous people were in town last week for the UA coaching clinic, and they got a look at Alabama up close and personal. Like Bill Parcells, NFL legend, may wind up coaching the Saints this coming year. Lou Holtz was there as well. Both were speaking at the University of Alabama coaching clinic. And we had a chance to talk with Coach Holtz, who had this to say about Nick Saban and the strong Alabama defense that was put on the field in 2011.
In 13 games, they gave up 9 touchdowns against the best opponents in the country. In one game, Clemson, called a bowl game, gave up 10 touchdowns to West Virginia. So it was unbelievable. I was at the national championship game, and I felt that Alabama would win because the team I think are 7 for 7 in return games, the team that lost the opening. But no way did I expect them to dominate the game the way they did defensively. I mean, it was a complete mismatch just watching them. But defensively, and I've coached against Coach Saban, and you know, I just say this, I have the utmost respect for him as a person, as a coach, and love being around him, but he's a greedy sucker. When you played him, see, some people get you 1st and 10 and 2nd and 12, and then 3rd and 9, and they're content to have 4th and 5. Not Nick. He wants it 1st and 10, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 14, 4th and 19. He wants to move you back. He doesn't want to give you a yard. And you can see the way they practice out there, that they just don't want you to make a yard.
I tell you, I still love listening to Coach Holtz.
He's got a quip now.
We ran into him after the national championship game in New Orleans. He was on his way out and got to have a word with him, and he just said, that, boys, was a kicking. And he used another word right in front of it.
Well, you know, when he walked up, he was asked, how you doing today? He said, I'm doing great. I don't have to play Alabama. I mean, you know, that's typical Lou Holtz.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. We've talked about it. We see him out there every day. But these high school coaches that were here for the clinic, and even guys like Parcells and Holtz, looked around in wonder at the number of big, strong athletes out there. It's somewhat like watching an NFL team out there practice.
You know, there's a story last year about practice, about fall camp, or at some point in the season when a scout from a pro team happened to be here, and he asked someone that was showing him around, who is number 44? Number 44 is freshman LaMichael Fanning. And he looked at the guy and said, he looks better than anybody in our organization right now. I mean,
and he was redshirted.
Yeah.
But look out for him this year.
Absolutely.
Wow. All right, let's talk some hoops. This Anthony Grant to Illinois story, not making any waves here. We've heard nothing from Coach Grant. No reason to believe that he's even considering a move from Alabama. But the Chicago media outlets continue to report that Illinois is looking at Coach Grant and that he has interest. Now, the athletics director there at Illinois is really facing an uphill battle. Everybody just assumed when they offered Shaka Smart from VCU $3 million he was going to take the job. He didn't. So now Coach Grant, Leonard Hamilton from Florida State are both being mentioned. Even Frank Haith from Missouri, who's only been on the job for 1 year. But, you know, it continues to stay in the news. But, again, Rodney, there's just, based on what we're hearing here, which is nothing, there's no reason to believe that Coach Grant's going to.
Well, I'd be really surprised, Gary. I think that, you know, when you think about Anthony Grant, I think he's got a commitment. He came here with a commitment, and I think Alabama's been committed to him. And I don't see him walking away from it.
You make a good point. As much as we talk about the commitment made to football, look at Coach Grant. Before he got here, they spent nearly $40 million on Coleman Coliseum. Then after he got here, they're paying him nearly $2 million a year, paying his assistants well. They built that incredible indoor practice facility, new locker rooms. Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before Alabama's winning big in basketball as well. All right, phone calls and emails, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-4895 is the number. Let's take our first call of the evening. And it is with Bridges in Tuscaloosa. Bridges, go ahead.
Hey, good evening.
Hey there.
My name is Bridges.
Hey,
I
Bridges.
have a friend in Florida who wanted to know whatever happened to Ron Carter.
He's still here, Bridges. I saw him yesterday. Right after practice started, he was walking into the football complex. He's not practicing with the team yet, but, you know, maybe sometime soon.
You know, Ryan, I think the best thing to do, so many people are speculating on when he'll be out there. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
I think people should just quit saying he's going to be out here on a certain day. But I do believe this. The fact that he's still here and he's still in school.
There's a reason for it.
Yeah, I think at some point we'll see Ron Carter on the practice field. When, I have no idea. It may not even be at all this spring. But he is still here, and that's got to mean something. All right, let's go back to the phones and talk with Tori over in Birmingham. Hey, Tori, what's going on?
Roll Tide.
Hey, all right.
I wanted to know, was it any more rumors about Tony Mitchell? Is he going pro or is he staying?
Yeah, Tori, really that's all you're hearing are rumors. You're not hearing anything from Coach Grant. Coach Grant did say following the loss to Creighton in the NCAA basketball tournament that he had not shut the door on a possibility of Tony Mitchell returning for his senior season. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if he's in school or not. And obviously, if he's going to come back, he'd have to be in school. I'm not even sure. You know, my gut feeling is that he won't be back, but we'll just have to wait and see. Again, that's all like the Ron Carter situation. We don't know anything 100%. But if we hear anything, we'll pass it along, that's for sure. Okay, time to take a time out here on the program. More of your phone calls and emails when we come back right here on Titv. Back here on Titer Insider TV, Rodney Orr, Gary Harris, and more of your phone calls and emails. Right now, let's take an email from Bruce over in McCalla. Who will kick field goals for the Tide this season? Bruce, that's a good question because there are many candidates. And obviously, you've got the two returning kickers from a year ago that split short field goals and long field goals, Shelley and Foster, but you got a freshman coming in that I know we've heard this before, but pretty much everybody acknowledges that he was the best high school kicker in the country last year.
Adam Griffith, great kicker from Calhoun, Georgia, Gary. I mean, in practice, he nailed a 69-yarder, and again, I know it was practice, but he actually tried a 69-yarder in a game and just came up short, barely. He hit several over 50 yards, so, you know, he's proven himself, and you know, former soccer player, so he's been kicking it for a while, originally from Poland, actually. So, you know, very interesting situation and story with him. He only, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, was the first game he ever kicked in, Gary. And he had never kicked before in a game. They had to line him up and show him what to do.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, it is. And
he learned quick.
Well, let me tell you how good the guy is, okay? They go into overtime. It may have been double overtime, whatever it was in the state championship game, and they force a turnover. They don't even run a play. They line him up and let him kick a 35-yard field goal. I mean, that's telling you. This is high school. Yeah. They line him up in the state championship game, don't even run a play, and go ahead and kick the field goal.
That's confidence. So. 205-348-4895. Lines are open if you want to call. Now would be an excellent opportunity to get through. Right now, we've got another email to get to from Bill in Tuscaloosa. What do the Alabama receivers look like for next year? We were asked about Deron Carter, and everybody acknowledges that he's a talented guy, and we may see him on the field, but this group of receivers without Deron Carter is an impressive group, and they are really, some of these guys making a name for themselves in the spring. Some of them made a name for themselves in that national championship game, like Norwood and Kenny Bell.
I've loved Kevin Norwood. I've told you that for a long time. And, you know, I hope that was his coming out party and he becomes consistent and does all the things he has to do because I think he's an excellent talent. Kenny Bell's having a great spring, and I really don't want to forget anyone necessarily from the returning guys. DeAndre White, I know he's been a little bit injured, Gary, but watch out for those two freshmen, Amari Cooper and Chris Black. I mean, everybody's talking about him. Even D. Milner said yesterday, he said those are two of the toughest guys he's had to cover.
A lot of talent. We're back after this. And finally, the Alabama gymnastics team will head west for an NCAA regional. Seedings were announced on Monday, and the Crimson Tide is the #1 seed in the Seattle regional. They'll face off against LSU, Arizona, Washington, Iowa, and Central Michigan. The top two teams at the regional will advance to nationals. Alabama has advanced to the championship level 29 consecutive years, but despite that fact, Sarah Patterson is just excited to make it back in one more time. You never take it for granted.
I never take it for granted. I just feel like it's a great stepping stone. We know that we have to go there and advance. This is where our sport changes. We've become more like basketball. You can't be off on that one night. We know that it's happened to other teams, and I think David and I have, over the years, always had the mentality of we will do whatever it takes to get our team to advance.
Of course, we'll keep you up to date on the Gym Tide. Right now, though, it is dinner time. We're headed over to the Pottery Grill in Northport. Come out about 7:15 and join us for dinner. You can watch Rodney's wife, Tracy. She eats about 2 little bitty pieces of chicken and about 1 bite of bread. We're gonna make her eat some serious grub tonight. For Rodney Orr and John Huddleston, the rest of our crew, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week on Tider Insider TV.